Alright, thing says we're live. I'm gonna share it on Twitter in a few places while people pile in. But I'm irritated at a few things. Just a few. Uh, and I do want to start doing daily content. So basically, I'm gonna be doing something like this on a relatively regular basis. And today's has a lot to do with the outlet that is in the title. So, I'm going to share this on Facebook right now. And it's already shared on Twitter, but I'm going to blast it to a few group messages because what's a Jeremiah stream without annoying a few people? And while I do, feel free to check out any of the sponsors. I'm multitasking while I say this, so I might bungle the read, but I'm going to see if I can start to do that to save a little bit of time in the future. This is brought to you by Love Java Performance Butter Coffee with CBD and MCT oils. It's 0 calorie, and it's very good. It was also effective at sort of alleviating my post-workout maladies. So if you're looking for something like that, hit up Love Java. It's also brought to you by Castle Keep Crafts. My CD guy is late, but it's not their fault. It's USPS's fault. And they do basically like interesting little plushes and also handcrafted stained glass and other like fantasy shit. So I highly recommend checking them out. Also, my bigger sponsors, which are Liberty Under Attack Publications, and they do full service publishing of your books. They will help you get them off the ground. They do narration, binding, distribution, I think, and they also do graphic design. They do a lot of stuff. I would recommend checking them out. They're very good people. Additionally, LibertyProfessionals private investigation. If you're in the Virginia area and you need private investigation, hit up LibertyProfessionals. I think that's good. All right, just that group too, because I might as well. So all of that out of the way, the first subject under discussion is something that irritated me today because plenty of people were just parroting it. Like, this is the problem with trusting official sources. It's ass. It's ass cancer. It is ass AIDS. And you end up with situations like this, where, and this is just something to fluff up the beginning, essentially, but you end up with stuff like this, and here's a jarring, well, let me get my sponsor thing up. Here's a jarring fucking snap to the actual thing, because I'm going to try and, like, actually do multimedia on here. Daily Beast decided to post an article today that was thoroughly incorrect. And in that article that they posted, which was thoroughly incorrect, they said that Think Progress, a top progressive news site, has shut down. Now, I already kind of thought this was bullshit, but now that I have seen the bullshit with my eyes, I just wanted to tell people at the beginning, this is why you should look at sources yourself. It's why you should observe the things that people tell you and not just trust them. Because what you'll see in this article is, it says, Think Progress, the influential news site that rose to prominence in the shadow of the Bush administration and helped define progressivism during the Obama years, is shutting down. Now, they go into what it is, which, yes, it was all of that. It was for the Center of American Progress, which is basically a Podesta mouthpiece, which I made a joke about that, but I don't think that I want to repost a tweet again. And they go down to, given that we couldn't find a new publisher, we have no other real option but to fold the Think Progress website back into CAP's broader online presence with a focus on analysis of policy, politics, and news events through the lens of existing CAP and CAP Action staff experts, said Nayak. Conversations on how to do so are just beginning, but we will seek to reinvent it as a different platform for progressive change. They're not shutting down. And I really, because as soon as I heard that they're shutting down, I went to their site, and it was still there. Wow, their site was still there. How impressive. I don't know how their site could be there if it was shutting down as Daily Beast and therefore many other sites like the Hill just automatically reposted their findings. That's one of the things I don't like about news. I could fucking just rant about the things I don't like about news. But one of the key things that I don't like about news is that you'll get one site that is considered reputable. And that site will post a thing. And then so many other sites will just say, well, because this site said it, it's true. And it wasn't true. It's not true. They're not shutting down. They're changing essentially the way they deliver information. But they're still going to deliver information. It's still probably going to be under the Think Progress banner. It's just going to be closer to elitist micromanagement. So if anything, it's just more honest than it was. It's not shutting down. It's purifying. It's cutting the fat. It's stopping the bullshit of, well, we're basically we're only gonna be the center for American progress at this point. Like, that's the only change that we've experienced so far. I've got a comment from somebody on one of my group messages. He says, I'll leave you with some advice. You need more unhinged yelling, gay frogs, and choking people on your stream. Your voice is way too silky, and you speak at a much too reasonable pace. Maybe if I wanted to do the Ben Shapiro route, I could do that. I've been told I can speak relatively quickly when I want to. I'm not sure how well that would work, but, if I decided to, let's say I decided to, let's say, I could then move much more content and move many more subjects. But I'm not exactly sure that that's good for discourse, because I think when people can't listen to the content on its own, when people can't really focus on what you're saying, you can breeze by a lot of bullshit. Like, the fact that Ben Shapiro's on PragerU's nuts and he constantly, capitulates to the right-wing agenda, even when the right-wing agenda is wrong. So, I don't know. Maybe I could do that, I guess, but I think it would lose some of it. Yeah, I definitely plan to yell, and today I've got plenty to yell about, because basically in one of these group messages I've been fucking arguing about technocracy all day, as though it's not fucking obvious. Off and on. I've been doing other shit. I've been trying to learn Clip Studio so that I can, get better at art. But at the same time, the fact that it started off with me arguing against technocracy, and then started, when I was agreeing that technocracy was bad, an optimist comes in and says, oh, well, because you're, essentially because you're a pessimist, you're also wrong. Fuck that. There is so much to be upset about, and so many things trending downward. And it's high time that people stop this veneer of goodness. Ayal Binstock says, how long has this stream been going? Want to say 9 minutes? And feel free to invite your friends, anybody you want. We will be stronger if I have more people disagreeing with me. And the more people are in the chat, the more people have the potential to disagree with me. So feel free. I don't care who it is, when I came out against pedos, and had my stream about getting banned from Discord, there were pedos in my chat, and we got to bash on them. So it really doesn't matter who they are. I'm hyper metabolic, bipolar, and angry. I'm ready. Anyway, about 9 minutes. That should answer your question. But they lied. Daily Beast lied. And people just believed them. People just said, yep, the Daily Beast said it. That's all I need. Well, It ain't all I need, and it shouldn't be all anybody else needs. But because Daily Beast is a trusted news source, they get away with making false statements. Like, Think Progress, I really looked and I couldn't find a source where they said they were shutting down. But that's the headline. Because people get to get away with bullshit if they are official. And they get away with bullshit if they toe in enough of a party line that they've got an in-baked, like, audience. Like, that's the only reason Shapiro gets any play. Because he's had such searingly bad takes in the past, and he does it every day. He has like a bad take, and he still gets play because he has Republicans who support what he's saying. And he barely ever goes against like the boilerplate conservative narratives, and it doesn't help that he has the political affiliations and allegiances that he does, because in trying to be the intellectual dark web, a lot of these people have basically decided to eschew legitimate conversation in hopes of stirring more controversy. But that's a rant I could probably do better on another day. All of that aside, I wanted to give you guys an update. I'm still trying to get my computer back up and going. If anybody wants to help with that, the PayPal link is definitely in the description. And I'm trying to figure out, when I do get it up and going, how to get a freedom box, which would be something that I could host a Riot instance on, so that I could be completely uncensorable in terms of content, like the Discord server we were running for anti-pedo action. I could run a Riot server from this house where we could do all of the same activism, like reporting child porn to NCMEC, and countless other things that we were doing, right? So if you want to help, all I need is enough to pay rent, and then I can spend whatever's on the top of that on this. And one of my plans is to do as many odd jobs as possible to get that going. To really work my ass off to try and get this sort of thing off the ground. But any help any of you want to provide is definitely appreciated. That aside, while I was in a conversation I haven't been kicked from for some reason, today, it got into technocracy. So I just want to briefly touch on what technocracy is, why it sucks, and, whatever, appease the blood gods. Because there are people who think that they can be benevolent technocrats, and that not only will it make a better society, but that society will get behind them. Now, what this particular person wants is, I think, if I remember correctly, because I'm not going to scroll up through the conversation, he said he wants a 16-hour work week, to abolish capitalism, and to allow the operation of machines to be controlled by the elected class of people. And in doing so, he wants to create basically a society where the people who can administrate are the people who know how the equipment works, and then have the entire society operated by the machinations of operating that equipment. So basically, he wants a society whereby people create machines and then control the machines exclusively, and the machines are what's required for societal operation. And he claims that this is benevolent, that this won't turn into an operation of population control in more than one way. I disagree. I think the technocrats that exist these days are elitist scum who have no capacity for understanding how much they hurt people. I think a lot of them are psychopaths. and don't have very much compassion for anyone, much less their situation, much less their desires. He claims that it will result in a society where people are free to pursue creative passions, and he lists like art, music, and shit as the creative passion that people will be able to pursue. Um, and somebody made a really good counterpoint to that in the same group message. I don't want to do that. Now, me personally, I do want to do that. I've got a lot of lyrics. I'm learning how to use Clip Studio. I wouldn't mind having more time to do that, but I also would mind it if it came from a technocratic elite who had control over society based on their death grip on the machinations, the literal machines. So, not only am I solid good on that, but, I just thought I'd bring that up. And he tried repeatedly over the past, like, several days, I think it's been, to push the idea of an anarcho-technocracy. Now, first off, there is no anarcho-ocracy. There is no anarcho-monarchy or any other sort of archy. You can't have a system of government and also not have rulers. It doesn't fucking work. So anybody who says that that is possible is not only definitionally but semantically and philosophically incorrect, and probably also needs to read some goddamn books. But to get that part of it established, it led into an argument about optimism, whereby a guy listed a bunch of reasons that he claims are, reasons to celebrate. Like, he lists a thing from Human Progress saying that, 40 reasons why things are getting better. And he lists this thing in order to try and say that no way are things getting worse. Now, I'm going to take some questions in chat, but I'll get to that particular list relatively shortly here. Boris says, government in charge of death bots? Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, I mean, basically. I mean, who fucking thinks that government would, in control of these sorts of technological advancements, and with those technological advancements in control of society, not use that as a hyper mechanized control mechanism? I want to meet this person, because when I pressed this other person in this group message today, his response was not in, disagreeing with my point, essentially. It was trying to convince me it wasn't the only way, but I knew what he was saying. I knew that what he was suggesting was this sort of highly controlled control system. Now, it may be administrable differently. There's a variety of things fucking possible under the sun. But, we're dealing with essentially the same smiling face that I talked about with the pedos. We're dealing with that when it comes to technocracy and its advocacy. Because, yeah, there might be some innocent technocrats who didn't do nothing, who just wanted things to be a nicer society with greater work freedom and art and whatever. But mostly the society that we would end up with is dark. Like, and when I got into a conversation about optimism, which I'll get into after I'm done addressing this next comment and whatever other comments pop up, whatever. These are all going to be unhinged rants. These are just going to be me like responding off the cuff to people. So if you want to keep me talking, say something. But this guy who was pro optimism was essentially saying, I don't care how things go as long as society has this technological advancement that led to all these things that I like. As long as we're not back in the Stone Age, it's fine. was essentially his argument. And I would be, posting these things up on the screen if, if this group message was public. But the point isn't to call this specific person out. The point is to call out this mentality of progress by any cost. Like this human progress site, the first thing they list in their list of 40 things that mean that we're not fucked is personal computer ownership is at an all-time high. Well, first off, the first place this was like put up as a list was on Reason Magazine's site. And let me be real fucking specific. Reason is a milquetoast semi-libertarian joint where professional libertarian Nick Gillespie, and his cohorts vent the worst possible interpretation of liberty, where everything is like anarchy is not libertarianism and it's also bad. Nothing is extreme. Everything's just fine and dandy and golden. And if it's not, it's because of bureaucracy or, something like that. And they always try to have this real optimism to their articles. So when I saw this thing, I was like, of course, it's reposted from Reason. It's going to be optimism. It's going to be fodder. And people didn't take too kindly to that, so I explained myself a little further. And I'll do that in a little bit. I got some things in the chat here. Why do people keep trying to mash anarchism with everything like anarcho-fascism? Because first off, the internet sucks ass in many ways. And one of the ways it sucks ass is that it gives people the ability to engage with the worst kinds of people and think they're reasonable. And like that might be like, oh, of course he would say that he's one of those worst people, so he knows from experience. I mean, you're not wrong, but the internet has led to a large amount of people convalescing around certain ideas, even if those ideas are mischaracterizations of form, even if those ideas are flat out wrong. They'll be there because they like the idea of the idea rather than the idea itself. So they have a bunch of straw men. And this is exacerbated by people trying to take shortcuts. Like, again, I lost a lot of people on the right of libertarianism because I brought up the fact that Rothbard was in fact serious about his Unleash the Cops line. And I wrote this entire article about how that was bullshit, and he was bullshit because he was trying to seek an alliance with the right over actually ending the state, and because he wasn't patient, and that's the reason he kicked all this off, because basically fuck Konkin. That was his mentality at the time. And so he had this entire thing of like platform for right-wing populism, and he was supporting Pat Buchanan, and he was supporting like basically anybody who wasn't leftist, anybody who wasn't the Clintons, and that was his solution. And so it doesn't help that there are key figures that people talk about in terms of libertarian anarchy, or right-wing specifically libertarian anarchy, who weren't anarchist, and like maybe were at one point in their life but weren't in the end of their life. So there's a huge amount of quotable quotes that you can quote Rothbard on, and those include like quotes involving like unleashing the cops on bums and vagrants, and clearing the streets of criminals and shit like that, ignoring all of the social context behind crime, ignoring all of the like things involved in actually unleashing the cops. He just jumped into it because he was impatient. And so there's a lot of people who say, well, in order to be libertarian, you have to be like that. Like, Rothbard is a reason Liberty Hangout gets to be the disingenuous flakes of dandruff they are, because of his later years. So when people try to mash anarchism with fascism, that's one of the reasons, is because they have a huge amount of history to back up the idea that they're compatible, even though that history is based on poor argumentation from people who didn't represent the ideology. And when they see that on the internet and they can crystallize and codify it into a system, they think that that system works just because it's possible on paper. And it's only loosely possible on paper, and only if you presuppose the idea of a non-governmental fascism, which to me is patently absurd, and to many other people, most people in and out of the anarchist movement, and even most people in the anarchist movement hate the idea of anarcho-fascism, hate the idea of anarcho-monarchy, think that these things are fucking awful. It's basically like anarcho-tankyism for right-wing anarchists. You know, the kinds of people who would call themselves ancoms and still have like Lenin and Stalin in profile pictures and headers. That's the kind of person who likes anarcho-fascism. They're just on the other end of the fucking spectrum. So that's the reason that works. How much do you charge for feet pics, Jerry? I have never sold a foot pic, but if somebody wanted to buy feet pics, I don't know, like I'm not gonna to whore myself out for cheap. So let's talk a couple of few $1,000s, and I'll see about showing my toes. You know, fucking that's a weird question, but I'll definitely answer it. Technocracy good in chat. Gonna have to see some citations there, bud. If a solar flare wiped out the internet, maybe it would be for the better. Yeah, I mean, but a solar flare would also wipe out, the guy's precious technocracy. So that's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy right there. Hello, Jeremiah just got here from Mad Warrior. Ew, that is fucking nasty. Yeah, I don't. That was mostly a joke. I think they'd have to give me a shit ton of money to see that. I mean, it's absolutely certain it'll happen at some point if I do my fucking content. Like, I'll accidentally show my feet and it'll end up on Feet Wiki, which is an entire wiki for celebrity feet pics. So if I do this long enough and get well known enough, I'll probably slip at some point and show my feet for free. I don't mean to, though. It's a weird concept, a foot fetish. I literally, to me, I don't know anything possibly arousing about it. But, whatever. It's the market. People are going to want what they want and pay for it if they want it badly enough. Which, by the way, if you want to support this content, where an unhinged rant goes from technocracy and the obliteration of people and, evil fascism to feet pics, feel free to donate in the Patreon or whatever. The more money you send, the better I can make this production. I'll give you $5 or a kick to the dick. Yeah, that's a negative, Ghost Rider. Any fetish is very odd. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the point of being a fetish. But in general, I see problems with the optimism bias that people have. And I think the primary reason that these optimistic biases exist is because people don't want to be, upset in any way. It doesn't matter what the situation is. It doesn't matter how the results would play out. It's just a matter of getting what you want in the moment. So, when people are generally optimistic, and this isn't always the case. I'm not saying it is. When they're optimistic, what's generally the case is that they haven't quite thought it out. They haven't looked at the negatives. They haven't looked at both sides. They've looked at the upside, and then they thought, yep, that's it. I don't need to do any more work. And that's to me, as far as I can see, how this was. I scrolled up finally to get to the list of things so that I can read them to you and react to them in live, fucking whatever. Hashtag unboxing Morg's mom. So this is the list. It's on humanprogress.org. And the list starts off, as I said, with more people than ever own a personal computer. Now, when I tried to check the stats on this, I was taken to a page that was clearly broken. It didn't work. So whoever designed their site, if you ever have the misfortune of stumbling upon my channel, know that your site is absolute cancer and you need a better webmaster. But the second one is, in just over a decade, it has become substantially easier to start a business. Which business? Are we talking about a cryptocurrency mining business where the FTC and CC have regulated the actual airwaves and regulated the ability of people to mine these things without government interference? You know, in some places outright banned them. Which country is it easier to start a business in? Because Hong Kong just got pretty fucking spicy. And all these businesses that were there because they didn't extradite and because they weren't part of treaties for like spying and shit, are starting to pile out because Hong Kong is suddenly becoming, bitch China. And that should scare everybody who wants successful businesses. So, I mean, businesses where? Where is it easier to start a business? I can't click your fucking link because your site has Ebola. More people than ever have access to sound money. Again, citation fucking needed. I tried to click it, couldn't. And what do you mean sound money? Fiat currency like the Federal Reserve? Cryptocurrency? Because obviously more people are getting it, so they have access. What do you mean access? It's one of these lists where you have to believe them. You can't know that what they're saying is true. You simply have to believe them. Because if you look for their sources, they'll probably send you to a biased piece of bullshit anyway. And it's 40 things here. Like, for children aged 7 and under, the expected average years of schooling has never been higher. Okay? And we're getting Common Core. And we're getting a bunch of people churned out who are very good at regurgitation, but not good at actually doing the tasks necessary to use the information. Like, they can pass a test. They can pass a standardized fill in the bubble, regurgitate your bullshit that we taught you test. What's good about schooling that isn't, better done by homeschooling? Does this include homeschooling? Does this include unschooling and other models of schooling that aren't your standard American schooling models? I think fucking not. I wish the Trilateral Commission would actually establish technocracy, but they're just progressives. Technocracy Inc. is the real deal. Nope. They're technocrats. Whether you like them or not, they're technocrats. Don't worry, I don't actually want to see your feet. I'm only shitposting. And I recognize that, but I've actually had people authentically ask. And it's a weird experience because my subject matter is not generally memey. It's not like fucking I'm talking games all the time and like shit posting most of my schedule. Most of what I do is talk about depressing shit that boomers like. Like my audience is significantly skewed toward older people, which is strange because I'm not even fucking 30 yet. But like there are people who have asked, like, authentically, and I didn't know what to tell them either. Like, I don't know, envision feet. Do one of those DeviantArt things where you just draw stumps with things coming off of them. I don't know. Those were really bad drawings. Bullshito. Sincerely, the host of the shit show group chat you just came out of. Yes, yeah. And Patriotic says, yes, HK, there was a move by government to remove their independence. Yeah, and that's the thing. This is what it looks like when people start to think things are great. Everybody started to move to places like Hong Kong because they could suddenly move there and get their business that they wanted. But now that it's that way, a lot of them are bailing. So a lot of these things amount to, essentially, the uphill trend that people remark on, avoiding the discussion of the inevitable bursting of the bubble. And that's how society works. Like, for a long time, bubbles, and then pop, and then everybody panics. A lot of people get injured. Many people die homeless, and, you know, the investors scramble to get their golden parachutes strapped on before they get pushed out of the plane. And the ones that didn't are well connected enough that they can just ride on an inheritance and bet on both sides of the recovery, and they come out golden. And you know, the people at the bottom, we don't have such a good time when recessions and depressions kick. We don't get to stage wars that we can use to justify that position. The only thing we get is fucking economic downturns, empty shelves, dead towns, and empty homes. That's what we get. We don't get the golden parachute, so we can't be optimistic and rational at the same time. We have to look at the full breadth of the situation and say, hey, shit may be great now, but it's going to suck someday, so not only should we prep, but we should also not be stupid about it. So that's the place we're at now. Is we're watching the bubble expand, and it's all horns up until it's not. And when bears happen, there's gonna be a lot of problems, and those a lot of problems are gonna cause a lot of people to get hurt, and that's the failure of optimism. So I mean, starting a business where? In the U.S., in California? Which part of California? Be specific. Global coal consumption is trending downward, thus easing CO2 emissions. Maybe? Or maybe global coal consumption is trending downward because other forms of petroleum are being pumped out. And maybe CO2 emissions aren't the only concern here, because there's a bunch of non-biodegradable green tech that's being pumped out. That's another problem with technocracy, like especially anarcho-technocracy. Like more people than ever own a personal computer. That's progress? Tell that to the child labor people building your computers. Tell that to the essentially slaves mining the conflict minerals necessary to build the ferromagnetic materials necessary for really tiny computer parts that make it go fast. You know, like, we can distract ourselves with games and entertainment all we want, but the fact is that your computer is built on extremely, extremely rocky ground. Let me scroll up in chat here. We've got a chat rate of 5 right now, so... Which is odd, because normally we only get that when I mass tag, so maybe people are starting to get interested normally. The people rose up and said no. Yeah, the people rose up and said no, although that might be temporary, and it might end up with a lot of people getting killed by the Chinese government. I mean, that woman can come up there, look tragic, and say that she never planned on doing any evil, but she's a fucking politician, and politicians lie. It doesn't matter where they come from. It's like a goddamn virus. So then we get King Bunny, who's back to be a pedo who disliked me going against pedos because he is one. And yes, he is that King Bunny. Mad Warrior says, I kind of lack optimism too. I hope so. I hope as many people eschew the optimism that eats like a cancer at society as possible, because shit isn't going well. Like, I would be recording Hellscape today if my computer was still functioning, which, again, I hope I can get some help. All I need is a cable at this point, as far as I know. But essentially, I'd be just as angry right now talking about all this stuff that I thought about talking about on Hellscape today. And effectively, my Hellscape thing gets quite a bit of traction compared to my other stuff, and people saying that they listen to it on repeat, which, thank you. But it gets that way because people know how shit everything is. So, let's be very specific. Optimism is a bias we can't afford to have. At least if I'm pessimistic and I'm wrong, I didn't invest anything based on a risk that was bullshit. At least if I'm pessimistic and I'm wrong, I don't lose anything. But if I'm optimistic and I'm wrong, I lose a lot. I lose like whatever I put into the thing I was optimistic about. And this society run by these people, why the fuck would you be optimistic? So I'm glad. I'm glad, Mad Warrior, that you lack optimism too, because it's a good fucking choice. To me, the only good fucking choice. Finian says, won't go to Japan for the same reason. Yeah, I mean, because they've always been an empire. I mean, I plan to visit at some point, especially so that I can go to that arcade, that Sega arcade, and a variety of other things that I want to do there. Because, I'm not a weeb or anything, but I do like quite a few anime, and I would not mind meeting the artists behind them. And I also want to meet the like Endon Capsule 444. Fuck. Coco Shibio Grenade, I think is the name of the band. There are so many like alternate like noise metal bands I just want to meet. I want to meet them. I want to have a fucking conversation, and I want to exchange tips on how to make music noisier, because I plan on making very noisy music at some point. Also in the group chat, I got that my voice is smoother and less, yelly than people expected. Yeah, because I'm extremely angry, and I'm not gonna say I'm not, but I don't want people to constantly come back to me being abrasive. It's like seasoning, you know. If you put too much on, it overpowers the dish and people can't taste anything. I want people to really feel it when I'm upset. So. Or New Zealand. Yeah, New Zealand's getting a massive crackdown. New Zealand is but like that's actually a good place to talk about something, because New Zealand, they have people resisting their gun ban. They have people saying no to their gun ban, and as a result, it's been made very difficult to enforce. So if you want a model of how to be a country, be New Zealand's citizens and not their government, because their government is ass, but their citizens are feisty. So if you're a Kiwi and you're in my chat, pleasure to meet you. I am glad to see you, and I hope you keep up the resistance. Burris, you can't just jump into selling feet pics. Didn't Belle Delphine teach you anything? Bathwater first. I could sell Gamerman sweat. Like, I could work out, and I could just sort of wring it out of a cloth. Maybe that would sell. Like, get little chunks of, like, the skin flakes that come off when my, like, gravity straps like rub against my skin, or when I like skin myself, I could sell a freeze dried blister or something. That's my gore punk aesthetic for you there. NZ doesn't have 300 million guns and tens of millions will use violence. Sure, yeah, I can see that. What am I? It's weird. It tries to scroll me all the way to the bottom. For those of you who don't use YouTube's live studio, it's kind of aids in many ways. Oh yeah, and of course, fucking Bunny trying to be legitimate again. He says he's gonna give people updates and confess a lot about himself. So I look forward to that video, and I look forward to dismantling it on your now dead channel. And I did download the Ayn Rand video that you deleted from your channel. So I plan to upload that to a dump of deleted videos that I'm going to start as a separate channel for people who I still need to prove said what they said. Because I think it's pretty atrocious when people delete things in an effect to destroy evidence. So I plan to do that. Just you wait. And Finian says, fuck Trump, I'm talking about individuals who will not disarm. Yes, yeah. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere with Bunny, so I wouldn't try. But Finian is not a state sucker. He's definitely on board with revolution. And he's also one of my biggest supporters. So I just, full disclosure. So you can tell that he understands at least that there's something that needs to be done, and putting his money where his mouth is. Also, you'll never escape my bullshit. It'll haunt you to the ends of the earth and back. I don't care. Making a chat interesting by not just having it be like one big block of old people is probably good. So whatever. Keep talking. Um, HK is one of many modern examples of why Americans should not give up their weapons. Absolutely. I mean, if those protesters all had weapons, like this is one of those things where I've always kind of wanted to just like airdrop weapons to people. Like airdrop a big ass crate of guns on one of these protests right there in the middle so they can start shooting these fucking cops. I've always wanted to do that. But I've never done it, and I would never advocate doing that because obviously that's illegal. But these people, they need to reverse the arms disparity. They're already sort of starting to reverse some disparities in terms of information and tracking whatever by removing the facial recognition cameras. So good for them. I hope everybody it doesn't matter where you go. These things are evil. They're tracking you, they're watching your movements, they're seeing what your emotions are, they're seeing what you look at, what you like, what windows you pause on to while you're walking by the store. I mean, people don't think about it while they walk by on the street, but these AI cameras are absolutely insidious. Which, by the way, I saw the movie Insidious finally, and fuck that shit. First off, I predicted like the whole movie, and it's boring, and it relied entirely on jump scares and interesting visuals, and the jump scares weren't that jump scary, and the interesting visuals weren't that interesting. So the whole concept of a person being haunted rather than a house, interesting concept, shit execution. Everybody who told me it was different and something that I would have nightmares from, I don't fucking know what you're on, but it is not. I'm on a different plane, man. I guess I've had too many night terrors and too much paralysis for that sort of thing to bother me. Mad Warrior says, all any politicians want is money. Remember that, and Trump will be reelected president and his clown ass will fuck up America again. Yes, all of that is true. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Maybe. But I mean, to get back to this article over here, this human progress article, chlorofluorocarbon consumption has reached an all-time low. Okay. I mean, yeah, so they got rid of some bad fridges. That doesn't actually change much. What that changes is the type of pollution to the environment. It doesn't change that the environment is being polluted. And like all these elitists are co-signing the idea of blocking off the fucking sun and reflecting it back since the planet's too hot. So, all of these fine metallic minerals that are going to have to be pumped into the atmosphere and then breathed into us, that's a fucking problem. And it's going to be an environmental catastrophe, and it's going to cause a huge upswell in diseases, which will cause basically various industrial complexes to kick into high gear. So yeah, chlorofluorocarbon consumption has reached an all-time low. Woo, we did it! But we got some other shit because people don't give enough of a shit to stop being optimists and look at the full picture. Wheat yields for U.S. agriculture have never been higher. This year? Or the year when this was written? Because in 2013 is when this was written, and this year we had a crop shortage because of massive flooding right before harvest. People are devastated. Farms have shut down. People have lost jobs. Cows have died. This is not a good time to bring up wheat yields. So for anybody who wants to use this fucking link as a way to prove that things are great, needs to fucking eat like 40 cocks. I'm super mad at this sort of shit. It's laughably wrong. Back to the chat. But yeah, I mean, that wasn't to diss you, Finian. That was just, I don't like the hope for the best, prepare for the worst mentality. I've kind of lost hope. I'm all on anger now. I'm running on caffeine and rage. That's it. I sometimes hope. But most of the time, I just try to laugh at the fact that the world is fucked and nobody cares. Mad Warrior says the world can end tomorrow. Say what you need to say today. Definitely. Yeah, good. Finian says China has a stated goal to take back Taiwan by the end of 2022. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Wait. Oh, yeah, no. I think Philip DeFranco went over that. Yeah, that was fucked. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, fuck China. I mean, the government anyway. The people are still just oppressed minorities, in terms of the global infrastructure. Plus, technocracy also will be established in a technate, which is a geographical unit completely cut off from the rest of the world. Yeah, how are you going to cut that off, Maximus the Great? Yeah, by force. Yeah, by people aren't going to like you very much. Yeah, by that's not a very good idea. I also expected a screaming angry lunatic, lol. Well, sometimes I get there, but I don't know, like, the channel should be mostly rational, calm discussion. I get the times I yell the most are the times when I'm in a debate with somebody and they're either talking over me or not understanding something obvious that I've repeated many times. I don't like the fact that I have to retrace ground a lot with certain people because they're not being rigorous or good faith. And I get really shouty then. But to be completely honest, like, my brain's a fucked up mess and I spend most of my time angry. So my outward appearance is probably going to reflect somebody who's used to being angry. Sort of like fucking the Hulk quote or whatever. I'm always angry. Plus technocracy. Okay, sorry, I fucking hit the wrong end of this fucking thread here. Finian says, yes, proud of them for rejecting turning in weapons, but they are an island isolated and will be invaded. Pop the chat out to not have that problem. I would still have that problem. It's not like it pops me up. It's that it pops me down after I scroll a certain amount. And that's inherent to the way the app works. I'm like, because this end of the screen is entirely that. Mad Warrior says, I'm not saying anything right now about Bunny because I don't want to cause drama and make everything hectic. I mean, that's understandable, but I could see talking some shit on a pedophile for this stream as well. You know, I mean, we might as well. He decided to show up for some reason. IL says, what do you think is the real salutation? I think he meant solution to global warming. A lot of the ideals I've seen were also excuses to government having more power, carbon tax, Green New Deal, etc. I'm a fucking hippie when it comes to this stuff. I don't think technology or government of any sort is the answer, man. I think growing plants that are good oxygen cyclers, like snake plants and sprouts, like, you want a really good way to help the environment, to remove carbon from the atmosphere. You want a good way to clean up the air and make it better and safer to breathe. Plants. Please just grow plants. I cannot emphasize enough to you how growing plants is the solution here. And specifically, if you want a good plant that you can not only eat, but purify the environment with, get sprouts. Grow sprouts, eat sprouts. They're good for your gut microbiome. They're high in protein and nitrogen. They're fucking great for you. And they consume so many pollutants. They're so good in so many ways. Just have a ground covered in sprouts in your front yard. Grow food, not lawns, man. And your soil will be healthier for other plants. So grow other plants next to the sprouts. You know? Have a garden. Stop the solution seeking from the bullshit human technological perspective and just let the earth be the earth. That's my solution. It's real simple, very nice, and it tastes good. Okay? Grow plants. And that's one of my key points of anger. All these fucking elitists, they want the same profit, the same capital that's always been pumped out of these industries. So they don't want these industries to stop, no matter how much they pollute. They want these industries to chug at ever greater points so that their numbers can look good. And while they do that, the environment is slowly being destroyed by that which does not biodegrade and poisoned by things that are made particulate in the atmosphere. And most people don't grow their own food. Most people go to the store, they buy something wrapped in plastic or fucking pre-made. They don't cook their own food. They go to a fast food restaurant with massive shipping lines and mass production. They don't work out. So a lot of their food goes to waste when they do eat it. Like, oh yeah, you sustained yourself for another day of sitting on a chair. There are problems. And most of these problems could be addressed by stopping trying to tame nature and start trying to live with it, man. And that's where I start to sound like Ted Kaczynski, which, by the way, read Ted Kaczynski. If that needs a cherry on top, read the Unabomber's books and writings. He was very good at talking about what he talked about, and I recommend people read him for more than just the crazy guy who did shit. How much Bitcoin do I have? I have, I think, I can't remember the exact decimalage, so I'll just say the US dollar value. I currently only have like $2 and something. If people want to donate cryptocurrency, I'll definitely take them up on that offer. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm assuming you were just asking that because I was talking about prepping and you're trying to mock me because you're a pedo and you don't like what I said about you. But, if people bought 3D printed guns or those on the black market, then they'd have more power than buying guns with state back. That's not power. Power isn't looking past what the state says to do. Power is doing what you want without the state's permission. So no, that's not even true. And Finian got it on nail on the head there. We already have face-to-face sales. King, no background. Mad Warrior says, speaking of weapons, my thoughts on concealed and carry rights are very mixed. I agree with one's rights to protect themselves, but what if one nutso shot everyone? Well, that'd be a very, very big extended magazine. I'm not even sure that could fit, like, in a town, much less than the planet. I think there's a problem here with that logic of shooting everyone. They should have better background checks on guns. I disagree. I think that gun ownership should be more universal than it is, and there are too many laws. And I think that most of these laws are based on government trying to increase the disparity between the people and them. That's why big cities love these laws, because they had a problem with underprivileged and oppressed classes like black people and other victims of racism, and the entire sort of victim class that is the classist victim class, where everybody in a certain economic bracket is given a certain level of freedom versus another. Like, fucking body count put it very well, fucking when it comes to the poor, no lives matter. And so get your gun, right? Buy a gun, have a gun. People relying on the state to protect them from maniacs is like relying on Dexter to keep your skin intact. It's fucking, it's an exercise in futility to seek from the power-hungry elite your safety, because eventually the chickens are going to come home to roost, and the people are not going to have the ability to defend themselves, and as a result, there's going to be massacres, there's going to be terror, there's going to be evil. And people who can't defend themselves because they decided to let a few nut jobs shooting a few people turn into one nut job shooting everybody, and use that as an excuse to ban guns or increase the restrictions on guns, they're going to be the reason that this disparity exists. So I really hope you reverse that, because you said you're a pessimist, please be a pessimist. Realize that this isn't going to end well. Regulations on guns never end well. Hello, Brandon Paget. Welcome to the fucking frenetic insanity bullshit. Mad Warrior says, but it's a good thing. People lie when they're happy. When they're angry, shit gets real. This will make sense later, Bunny. I'm not sure what you were... Oh, being angry 24/7 is bad for your health. I don't care. I'm gonna die someday. It could be tomorrow. I could get hit by a car. Derelict part of a fucking plane that took off at the local airports here. Could smash through my ceiling like Donnie Darko style. Everything dies. Life is short, and I'm not gonna live like, I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna die someday, and if I die because I had righteous anger at the right targets for a long time, I think that's a good death, and I'm happy. Today will be a good day to die. Okay? What are we doing? Bullshito says, this was fun, bro. Stream at a more reasonable time sometime, and I'll stop by and entertain your boomer audience a bit more, because it's 2 a.m. this side of the globe. See, I don't know what a more reasonable time would be. Like, I guess I could stream early in the morning. Like, if somebody wanted to be a co-host again, I could even conceivably get Bad Morning News up again. That wasn't hard to do. Although we would have to get it going outside of a service like Discord, because I don't have a Discord anymore. So, if somebody decides they want to join me on that venture, it would involve waking up 5 days a week very early so that we could talk about bullshit for an hour. But I don't know, maybe that would be more reasonable for you. I don't know your schedule. Mad Warrior says, I'm saying that if we did better background checks, then there would be less gun massacres. Maybe. There are a lot of people who get around background checks or don't even use them. There are a lot of people who steal guns. There are a lot of people who build guns in their own home. You can't stop people from owning a 3D printer because they made a comment online once that flagged them in background checks. And all these red flag laws are just the next part of the background checking system. So if you want more, comprehensive background checks, thank Trump for his anti-gun bullshit. I think that's still Finnian with the Japanese text here. I'm not exact, or actually that might be Chinese. I think that's Chinese. Let me see. Because they've both got this agorism thing. Nope, not me. Okay. What does your text there say? I don't speak that language yet. I actually have it slated to learn many languages, but something always gets in the way. Nice icon, other person. Haha. Yes, agreed. Lots of mass shooters murdered by people to get their guns to include their family members. Those background checks won't help. I think I know what you were saying. Yeah, definitely. I am not a robot, LMAO. Yeah, okay. I believe you. I believe you, because we're able to have a conversation. Your responses are not limited. Anyway, all that aside, the next thing in this list, past fucking wheat yields, internet access in schools has substantially increased. Well, that fantastic. So, internet access in schools has increased. So, kids can now be sat down in front of somebody else's material easier than ever. Teachers can now print out packages easier than ever. People can now watch YouTube videos or play cool math games instead of doing, their schoolwork. That's a sign of increase in standard of living. Like, it seems like a lot of these things in this list are just things that they can list. They're not positives necessarily. They're neutrals or they're like outdated negatives. On average, freedom of the press has never been higher. Fucking where? And this is still, again, in 2013, so not now. Not while Alex Jones has been turned into a hate figure and you can't even say something positive about him without being censored. Not while news is pushed through algorithms and people decide, to narrow their consciousness down to one thing or another so that all these news outlets can decide what's news. Not while fact checking bullshit has determined how everything looks. Like, is there an updated version of this list? Because, first off, be a pessimist, because one moment, fucking, on average, freedom of the press has never been higher, and the next moment, you're in a society where you can't even say something positive about somebody. So be pessimistic. Understand that this issue is not going to change for the better because you're giving controlling evil people the ability to be evil and controlling. Oh, man, it's so irritating. My views on technology are also mixed. While technology also does help people, it may also hurt people with technology addiction rising in the younger generation. Ace observation, you know? But that's not all. It's not just, first off, the younger generation, it's also the older ones. And all this addiction does is encourage the sedentary, indolent lifestyle that leads people to avoid and ignore problems. So I think it's less about the addiction for me, and it's more about what people don't do with the energy that they spend on technology. Like, what have you done with today that could have been better than watching my stream? I know I'm shooting myself in the foot with this, right? Because I use technology for all of what I do. My livelihood depends on technology. But if there's a fucking solar flare tomorrow, I'm just going to work out harder. I'm going to work out harder. I'm going to find a local militia so that I can be useful, and like, life will go on. But a lot of these people don't have the skill sets necessary to survive in a situation where everything goes dark. And it's because they've spent their entire lives relying on a technology that is not stable. It's not stable. It's not long-term stable. Same with the dollar. It's not long-term stable, but it's still used. It's still widely used. And people don't give a shit. The fucking, as long as I can go buy a Slurpee at 7-Eleven, that's all I need to know about my dollar. But yeah, I mean, addiction is bad too. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying it's pretty low on the list of reasons technology sucks. Like AI cameras, like deep fakes that can change what you're saying, and because it's a face and because faces are recognizable. All they need to do is get a body double somewhere doing something evil, and you've suddenly got a stuntman for your life, making you fictional and making everybody believe what they're seeing on the screen is you, while you go commit an action that you didn't commit, which was totally heinous, and the entire public turns on you and cancels you because of it. It's not good. We're not headed in a good fucking direction. The internet allows us to network and spread the truth in a way never possible before, though. Yeah, but let me ask you something. If the situation could somehow be reversed and people were free and governments didn't exist and all you had to do is give up the internet, would you do it? I think the answer is yes. I think if we had to choose between the internet and that sort of thing, that freedom, that perfect and ultimate freedom, we'd choose the perfect and ultimate freedom. And I'm saying that because I think we're already making that choice. Like, I guess not we. Most people already make that choice by using their time to spend a whole lot of time wasted on the internet, gaming, social media, YouTube, whatever, when they could be spending that time building a better society. So while that happens, the government gets to get away with creating a huge amount of lies, a huge amount of problems, because people don't give a shit as long as they've got their, their TV and their toasters and their televisions, or whatever the guy on network said. As long as you leave me alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone, god damn it. The truth is a universal constant, but truth tellers only need to exist because they need to counter lies. So for every truth, there's a lie. And in this particular case, the elites love their lies. You know? I'll get to 10 in this list. I think I'll use this to pad future streams because I'm going to be doing this like at least 4 more times this week. Well, not this week. Over the next week. Fucking talking about optimism. Access to improved sanitation facilities has skyrocketed. Where? It doesn't say where. It doesn't give us the information. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's skyrocketed. You know what? Like, my previous town just got its first sewer. Is that what you're talking about? Because that's pretty under-fucking-whelming. You know, so all these things where people can just like, oh, it's a positive. Yeah, maybe it's a positive, or maybe it's just a negative that people papered over with something that can distract the average citizen to the point where they don't look at the negatives. Where is it? Great Depression, only 90 million lived in the USA, 5 mil died from starvation and exposure. This time around it will be way more. Back then 90% of people lived in rural areas and knew how to hunt and garden. Now it's 90% in urban areas without those skills. Yeah. And he says, yeah, I dump it in a heartbeat, the internet. That 5 mil dead will be 50 to 100 mil. Yeah. Totally understandable. But, oh, and Brandon says, and none of them are trained to fight or survive. That just means more goods for me to take. See, but that's the mentality, isn't it? Like, when I hear a lot of people talk about prepping, they talk about looting their neighbors. Like, especially as anarchists and libertarians, we should strive to be the people who are self-sufficient enough to not need to loot our neighbors. Because they need their supplies too. And if you're going to start living at the expense of your fellow man before the government collapses, why not start after the government collapses? Why not start before the government collapses and just start a better government, you know? I mean, I have a solution of anarchy, but that involves not treading on my fellow man. So I don't like the whole prepping of I'm just going to loot everything mentality. I've never liked that. I've always thought it was crass and not very solution-oriented. So I hope that anybody out there who may hear this starts to think about that. Like, why should you be able to live at the expense of your fellow man? Just something to think about. I'm going to see if there are any questions on Facebook, because I've been streaming for almost an hour and a half now. I actually only thought this would last like an hour, and I didn't think I'd get this much participation either. So thank you all for showing up. Brandon, there will be lots of dead people supply, sure. But don't go rogue and attack live people. You won't live long. Brandon says that's if they can kill me. Finian says, so you do plan to be a predator, Brandon. Good luck with that. Brandon says, this world can end for all I care, honestly. That depends on the situation. I mean, the situation is your neighbors. And they'll probably have a way to stratify their capabilities. Like, there are communities that are just going to spring back up. You remember Katrina? The most aggressive and dangerous force during Katrina was the government. Roving around shooting people, telling people that they couldn't like carry ammunition, right? That's the destructive force. Without the government, there wouldn't even be that. So I think it would end poorly. There would be a lot of people who would die because they just wouldn't have the means and the wherewithal to live without their benefits. But I don't think it would be that way. But anyway, are there any more questions in the chat? And just to remind everybody, some potential additional questions to wrap up the show with, jump in. This is brought to you by Love Java, Performance Butter Coffee with MCT oil and CBD oil. It's also brought to you by Castle Keep Crafts, fantasy goods and hand-painted stained glass. It's also brought to you by Liberty Under Attack Publishing, which you can get a full-service publishing for 20% off if you say Jeremiah sent you. And it's also brought to you by LibertyProfessionals, professional private investigation services in Virginia. If you need that, hit him up. Why am I wearing white? Okay, well, I just got done with a load of laundry. I'm actually wearing fucking MMA combat shorts because it's been a weird day. And basically, like, I had just pulled out my clothes out of the dryer before the stream started, and I didn't have much in the way of things. So I just threw this on. Honestly, this is way too big for me. And it's a doctor style, like, stethoscope tube shirt thing that somebody gave me once, and I just sort of have it. It might make useful cosplay someday. I don't fucking know. Maybe when I grow my muscles a little bit, I'll have enough build that I can actually, like, look impressive in this. So I don't know. Maybe I'll be like a buff doctor looking person someday and I can mock people for medical malpractice and shit. I don't know. Well, we'll see. But I'm wearing white because it was a thing that I could easily grab off the rack. Let me guess, you're a coffee addict too. Well, I'm running low on caffeine pills because I'm saving up for this cable. If any of you want to donate to my caffeine fund, please feel free to. Because normally, what I do is I have one of these when I need a pep. Because coffee is rather expensive for what you get, and I'm an addict to the substance caffeine, not really coffee. So if I'm going to get it, I'm just going to get it. No, I'm going to get it! Green tea myself, Finian says, with maple syrup. That sounds good. I've never had that. But that's the general thing, you know? Like, I have a bunch of weird shit. Like, and most of my wardrobe isn't even here. It's still in Southern California being stored at somebody's house. So, you know. I have a lot of, like, I have an actual, like, authentic military fatigue trench coat, and when I get a certain amount of cash, I'll bring that down to fucking, well, up to Spokane, and I'll have that available to talk with. But I have a lot of weird stuff. I could pull out a tweed suit. I think I have that here. I don't know. There's stuff I have. It's weird. But if anybody wanted to help, you know, there's PayPal donation links in the description. And assuming there are no more questions, this chat is pretty much done for today. And I plan to do this sort of thing like every day, so it's not like there won't be time for other shit to happen. But this stream was supposed to be a general, like, I'm very upset that people just repost shit. Don't just repost shit. Don't just say it's the Daily Beast so they're not telling a lie, right? Do your own research. Don't just believe me. Because it ain't about a personality cult if you actually want the truth. That's what I can say. I don't have any kinky clothes, no. That'd be a weird thing. I would not shave for $1,000, no. This beard is a part of my image and personality at this point, and I would rather not have to update a shaven face because I have skin issues, and the skin issues would complicate if I started to do that. Like, I develop what are called keloids, which means that occasionally if I get a cut, it'll develop a really big fucking scar. and I really don't want to tempt fate with that. Nor do I plan to. But like apart from that, I really don't look good without it. Like I may look bad right now, but I don't look good without it, especially since I need a fucking shower. Like I spent way too much time today not doing things like showers, so I need to invest in self-care, lol. Pretty much my whole body is hairy, to be completely honest. I've never shaved anything but my face, I don't think. So I mean, I've got these semi fuzzy arms. I've got like mad hair on my legs and everywhere else. Fucking I'm an animal. Animals have fur. It's not a bad thing. Um, Ethnic background. Uh, I think I'm German, Scottish, and maybe a little Irish. I don't know. My tree is weird. I just call myself a Euromut. It's been too long since I heard that sort of thing, and to be honest, I'm not going to get myself DNA tested and give them any more information than they already have. Although they can track you from your relatives, so whatever. The carpet definitely matches the drapes. But anyway, um, all of that aside, I hope y'all had a good one, and I'm gonna push these informal things out, and I'm gonna wash my hair, take a shower, and if I still have time later this evening after doing that, I'm gonna see if I can finally start my gaming streams. I don't have a good enough computer to do most gaming things, but I'll show my skill at certain things just to show I'm not a noob, and then I'll take requests as to what to play next. But it'll either be tonight or tomorrow that I start my gaming streams. So keep an eye out for that. I haven't decided how that's going to go yet. Karaoke. I probably won't do that. Um, I have professional recording equipment, and if I were to do something with my vocals, I would probably just make a song. I've got a ton of lyrics that I want to put on actual music. So if you hear my vocals, it won't be somebody else's music. It'll be mine. Um, I like a lot of music, and I'm not saying I don't, but I would rather just put my own voice out there. Anyway, I shall talk to y'all later, because it looks like this is basically done. It'll either be later tonight, gaming stream, or it'll be tomorrow. I'll try to do it earlier in the day tomorrow to see if that'll work for Bullshido a little better. Um, but I don't know. It's weird to try to talk to a global audience. So let me know what time works for you. If you decide you want to help, I would greatly appreciate any donations to that PayPal. And all that said, thank you for attending. And this has been my TED Talk. Smash the state.